Welcome to the EntrePastors Podcast on YouTube. This is a show that helps pastors think, act, and thrive as prosperous entrepreneurs. Well, hello there, and welcome to the 100th episode of the EntrePastors Podcast on YouTube. Hey, this is a special episode as we reach this milestone. In this episode, you're going to hear myself and my fellow co-host, Les Hughes, have a conversation about some of our favorite episodes over the past 100 episodes that we've produced. And also, you're going to hear what our audience picked as a few of their top-rated episodes. So, good little walk down memory lane. And as we do, we're going to kind of share some of the highlights from each one and some of the takeaways and really recapture what the message of EntrePastors is all about and what it is that we promote and celebrate here in this podcast and with our community. So we just want to say thank you for those of you that have been a part of this journey up to this point, whether you've listened to one of the episodes or 100 of them. We're grateful to have you with us, and thank you for being a part of everything that we're doing at EntrePastors. So God bless and enjoy the show. Here we go. In all seriousness, guys, we wanted to take just a moment on this episode and celebrate and invite you to celebrate with us. Kind of a milestone, 100 episodes in. Les and I are proud of that. We're proud of the work that we've done, and it's not just us. We've had so many amazing people contribute to what is now known as the EntrePastors Podcast. And not only the people who've been on the show, but the many people who have tuned in and subscribed and listened. Like, we're just grateful for all of it. And it's a fun milestone. And hopefully this is just the first 100 of many more hundreds to come. But we wanted to pause for just a moment. Les, here's something. A lot of times for people that are wired kind of like you and me, and probably many in our audience, we're goal setters, we're driven, we're wired up, we're ambitious. We don't often enough stop to celebrate the wins along the way. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's true.
We want to model that. We want to just celebrate and not just keep driving forward with our heads down all the time. Like, let's just stop and smell the flowers for a quick second and celebrate 100 episodes. And we have a kind of a special way we want to do that. So,
what we're doing, John?
Yeah.
You know what we're doing? What we're doing right now is we're practicing something that we've talked about. And that is, we're looking at the gain instead of the gap.
Ooh, do tell. What do you mean by that?
Well, Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy wrote a book called The Gap and the Gain. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, especially those that are building businesses and platforms, you're always looking to the next goal, just like you were referring to. And what you do is that can be frustrating because it's kind of like trying to walk to the horizon. You never really get there. And so they call that living in the gap, where it leads to discontentment and discouragement. And if you're not careful, quitting. But when you live in the gain, you look back at how far you've come and how much you've grown and that's called living in the gain. And that's much healthier in the long run than living in the gap. Yeah,
that's good. And I agree. We're kind of looking back over our shoulders, celebrating the 100 episodes that are behind us in the gain, and not looking ahead to the hundreds that still remain in the gap. But we'll get there. But we're going to celebrate where we've been. And here's kind of how we thought we would do this. We talked with our team, and we came up with this idea of, let's just share some of the highlights of the episodes that we've done. And the way we thought we would do that is by having the audience take a poll on what their favorite podcast episodes were. And we're going to reveal that in this show. And then also, Jon and Les, we both said to each other, hey, let's both come up with our top two. And this is hard. It's like picking your favorite kids. You're not really supposed to have one, not tell them that they're the one, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard to pick out of 100. What are my top two favorites? But Les and I agreed we would not tell each other what we're going to unveil until we do the show. So I'm excited to hear what Les has, what he brought to the table. And then we'll wrap up by just sharing a couple insights, some takeaways personally from both myself and Les that we've taken away from our almost 2 years now of being in business together and running this EntrePastors platform. So how you ready to go, Les? Does that sound like a good plan
do it.
for the show?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I'm gonna let you go first. Let's do ours first, and then we'll save the audiences till the end. You cool with that? All right. I'm gonna let you do one, and then I'll do one. How about that?
Okay.
Like opening Christmas presents.
It's not real creative. I went through and looked at every single episode and remembered most of the conversations that we had with all those guests and the ones that we did.
Okay.
There were two that came to my mind immediately, but I still thought, you know what, though, I'm going to go back and still look to them. But the two that I thought of right off the bat were the two that I went with. And after looking through them a little more, I'm gonna stick with them.
Okay, just give me one. Don't give them both. Just do one.
Okay. All right. The first one, what I've got as number one, is actually the first one that we did, August 31st, 2021. What exactly is an EntrePastor? Because even at that time, we were building the plane as we were flying it. And I remember where I was. I wasn't at home. It was at a different place that I recorded that episode from, because that's where I was in the world. And it was a getaway kind of place. So it was a really cool spot where I was sitting, and it was a reminder that we really can do this from about anywhere, which I love. And so, but just what that means to me, and also what it symbolizes and what it started, that one really is. It's not my favorite because of the content, but it is my favorite because of what it represents, I think.
Cool, man. I like that. You know, I'll share a quick story as we walk down memory lane a little bit together. Les, like, you kind of pushed me into this. I don't know if I've ever really told you this, or if you know this, but so, I mean, when you and I met, we started talking about this. We kind of had a similar passion and kicked around the idea, and it was a great idea. I knew it was a good idea, but I had another platform. It's not like I was looking for more work, you know, and but we were like, yeah, you know, maybe someday. And all of a sudden, like, Les is getting a logo ordered up, and he's like, hey, let's get the podcast going. I'm like, well, I guess we're doing this thing. And so there we go. We took off with it, and it came together in short order. But we definitely built the plane as we were flying it. Still are, by the way, but
that's right.
Definitely more assembled today. It's kind of like an IKEA piece of furniture. It looks a lot better a few hundred hours in than it does at the beginning. So cool. I like that. Okay, so I'll share mine, and I'm going to share my second favorite one. I'll save my most favorite one here for just a minute. This one's going to surprise you probably, because we haven't heard from this guy in a long time, but episode number 20, it's titled, I Started a Business and Sent My Kid to College. Scott Harper, I believe, is now I got to go back and check. I'm almost certain that that's his name, Scott Harper. Give me 1 second as I scroll up.
I believe you're right. I think that's right.
Yeah, he was a friend of, or Mike Harper. I'm sorry, it was Mike Harper, not Scott Harper. I knew I had one of those two right, but something was off there. He was a friend of Jody Pastor. He's a friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, and EntrePastors. And here's what I love about his story, man, is he's for years was living kind of in that place where probably the majority of our target audience is at in ministry, just faithfully serving, small church, small salary, and really had some major financial goals in front of him, not the least of which was putting his kid through a college that they could not afford on his pastor salary. And Jody helped him start a business. It's exactly the stuff that we talk about week in and week out at EntrePastors. In his case, it was a painting business. That's something he had done in the past, had some skill painting, and that thing blew up. And just, if I would encourage you to go listen to that. If you like success stories, go listen to it. But I am going to steal his thunder a little and just say that by the end of his, I think I'm getting this right, by the end of his first 6 months in business, he had paid for his daughter's first year in college. It was covered. And by the end of year 2 of his business, he had paid all 4 years of her college. The next big thing, he bought his wife a brand new car. They had never had a nice vehicle. And I mean, at the time that we had recorded him, Les, he was booked out for months and months ahead with his business. And on purpose, was not scaling it, was not looking to grow it into this big thing. It was just a source of income that for himself that he did. And so anyway, love it. And I'll tie it together when I share my next favorite one. But for now, I'll leave it at that and fall back in your court. So go ahead.
Well, the second one, like I said, it came to my mind immediately. Again, not only because of the content, but just what this meant to me personally. And really, I know I can speak for you and say to you too, but it's episode number 5. That was September 24th, 2021. And that's the Permission to Pivot episode with none other than Dan Miller.
Ooh, yeah, that was a good one.
That relationship with Dan, it just continues to mean so much personally. I mean, to me, the people, Jon, that that door has opened up, that he's either introduced us to personally, or, mentioned us on his podcast, or, in our mastermind meetings, just the things that he has said and the questions that he asks. And in his example, being at the stage of life that he and his wife Joanne are in, and still starting things new and fresh, and having so much energy and passion about what he does and helping other people. I don't know, for lots of reasons. Plus his whole, one of the reasons that he mentions us and encourages us so much is he really does believe so much in what we're doing. And so many people over the years that he's coached and helped have had a ministry background of some kind. And I think he's, in addition to helping them himself through his experience and advice, he's got somebody that he can kind of point him to give him a little bit more direction. And I don't know, I just really appreciate his friendship. So that episode right there, when we were able to book Dan and get his kind of endorsement on this thing, it just meant a lot to me.
Yeah. And I would agree, Les. In many ways, some things came full circle in my life. Like in that moment, like I value Dan's mentorship in my life over the years. I've told him this before, but in many ways, he's a big reason why I am where I am, because he's been that constant, faithful voice in my ear via his podcast and his books and, events and that sort of thing. But he's been that faithful voice in my ear, giving me that permission and speaking that life into me. Again, I've had others as well. Certainly he's not the only one, but he's been a huge source of encouragement in my life. And so, yeah, he's a friend of ours, a friend of our shows, and we're grateful for him. So good pick, man. That's a good one. Good.
All right. What you got? Let's hear it.
All right.
Number one.
All right. So here's my top favorite one. And this is so hard because I feel like I'm saying to everyone else, like, yours didn't make the cut, but I had to pick two. I mean, 98 on the table that I could not pick. So, and I'll tell you why I picked this one. Episode number 83. It's a little bit more recent. The pressure washing pastor, Joshua Brown. Remember him?
Yep. That's a good one.
Yeah, man. I love his story. And I love not only the story of his business, I love the story of his testimony, his life in pastoral ministry, and how he's bringing the gospel to his business and through his business. And I love also the financial success that his business has had and continues to have. And it doesn't take a rocket surgeon to tie these two things together, right? My two that I picked are kind of in that service-based space. And for some reason, I just kind of have a heart toward that, hands-on, physical, blue-collar work. I certainly like some of this easier, lighter lifting of sitting behind a desk and talking into a microphone. I enjoy some of that as well. But I'm the type of guy, Les, I still like getting out of here and going and getting my hands dirty and building stuff and fixing stuff and breaking stuff. And so when I meet those guys that are finding streams of income, they don't find them. They create streams of income around those hands-on skills.
Right.
There's just a part of that story that I'm immediately drawn to. So I think that's probably why with both of these guys, I like, especially like their stories. So the pressure
that doesn't surprise me at all that you would pick those two. And I got to tell you, those are two really good ones especially in terms of people that are really doing what we're talking about. They're very different models, which also goes to show that there's not just one way to do this.
Right.
There are some principles to put in place that'll help you, but there are a lot of ways to do this thing. Those are two great examples.
Well, and this may fit into more of our takeaways, Les, but to that, you and I have talked many times about should we just specialize? Should we just help pastors who want to do X and that's all we do? And, we could maybe niche down further, and we've discussed that, but I think we found a sweet spot where, like you said, there are so many ways that people can go create income. We're not claiming to have a corner on the market on any single one of them. As we're growing, we're starting to build relationships with some experts in all these different areas, and we're introducing people to that through our Pastors Business Alliance, and I'm excited about that. But yeah, like that's where I don't want to niche down too far, because I love the fact that we have people in our community who are painting, pressure washing, coaching, writing, speaking, selling stuff online. That's the whole gamut, and I love it. So
absolutely. All right, you want to get into what the audience said?
Yeah, and I'm gonna let you take the first one, and we'll just mention the other two as kind of runners up. So here's how we came to the audience one. We I think what we did was we had our team find the top 10 most downloaded episodes. And then of those, we sent that off in a poll, a survey to our audience.
Mhm.
And here's the results that we've got. I'm going to let you share the number one favorite pick from our audience, and then you can riff on it because this is really your wheelhouse. So go ahead.
Well, you know what? I'm from Kentucky, so if this were the Kentucky Derby, this is Secretariat. All right, it kind of blew everybody else away.
No idea what you just said, but I bet it was amazing.
Episode number 28, and that is why pastors should consider writing a book.
We've had a lot of interest in that, haven't we, Les?
Man, we have, and it's really not surprising in some ways because they are content creators. They have so much content, and the way we refer to it as, that intellectual property. They are communicators at heart, and they always want to get that message out, whether it be in their congregation or a smaller group or something that far exceeds their reach personally, which is what a book can do. So there it is. That was number one.
And by the way, that might be a good point just to plug another win, something to celebrate along our journey, is the relationship that we've established with Morgan James Publishing, and now we have EntrePastors Press. That was not something you and I saw coming when we launched this thing. And, we've already helped a few authors get deals and get published, and more in the pipeline. So that's exciting, man. Like, I'm really excited to see in the years to come how many pastors and ministry-minded people we're going to be able to help get their book out into the world with the help of our EntrePastors Press and Morgan James Publishing. So
yeah, that's right. So thanks everybody who took that poll and gave us that feedback. That was real helpful.
Yeah, and it's always it doesn't surprise me, like Les said, but it's a consistent thing. Anytime we talk about books and writing, we seem to get a lot of our audience leaning in, going, "Tell me more about that." So good stuff. All right. There were two others that were kind of in the real close second and third. So we'll go through those briefly here. The second one was actually episode number 2. We were knocking it out of the park right at the beginning of this thing. Why being an EntrePastor is a good thing. And I remember, Les, in that episode, you and I just went through some very basic reasons, and we continue to share those again and again throughout this journey, giving that encouragement, that permission, that blessing. Like, this is good, Pastor. You're not cheating on God. You're not cheating on your church people. If you're thriving financially, if you're giving some of your time and attention to growing a business in the marketplace, it's a good thing. And we went through a number of reasons why that is. So that was a good episode.
It was. Ready for number 3?
Do it.
All right. Number 3 is episode number 59. And that is, this is great copy, by the way. I think you came up with this title. How do I pick?
But go ahead.
Okay. No wonder I like it so much.
Yeah.
How do I pick a side hustle that's guaranteed not to fail? There you go.
I think you came up with that. I really do. So,
well, I think it's a good title, man. And what we did is we went into the details of, learning, taking failure really off of the table and being open-minded and a lifelong learner, and either reaching your goals or learning a lot of things that you can apply the next time around. So anyway, that was a really good episode, and it's interesting that our audience responded the way that they did. But again, thank you all for the feedback very much. And I do believe, Jon, that if you ever get to the point where you feel a little bit discouraged or things didn't work out the way that you wanted them to, that would be a good one to go back and listen to, and just hear some voice, the voice of reason and the voice of truth in your ear instead of some naysayers. Okay. So go back and check that one out sometime.
Yeah, that's good. And by the way, we're going to have links to all of these episodes that Les and I are mentioning. We're going to put them in the show notes for this episode. And so you can go to EntrePastors.com and, find the show notes for this particular episode 100 and get all these direct links to go find those episodes. But before we wrap up, we want to just share a couple of our big takeaways as we kind of wrap this thing up. And again, just celebrating the 100 episodes together. So I'll go first, Les, since I let you go first on the other. And if I had to boil it down to 2, and we may come up with a few more as we're talking here, but here's the one thing that I immediately started to find, it stood out to me. It was an observation, and I was grateful for it and excited about it. And that is that there are so many people already out there in the marketplace thriving as EntrePastors. They're faithfully serving in their churches, and they're running successful businesses. And I think that was a little bit of a shock to me, because I knew we had a message that I felt needed to get out there and needed to resonate. And yet once we started interviewing some people and telling some stories, we started to hear, oh, you should talk to so-and-so, meet so-and-so. And it just continues. And that web of relationships continues to grow. But here's maybe I don't know if it's bad news, but the other side of that coin is that while there's so much of this happening, why don't we know these stories? Why don't more pastors know this stuff? And I think that's where so much of this mindset stuff comes into play. These people are all flying under the radar. They can't get up and shout from the rooftops how proud they are of the business that they've built that's 6 figures, 7 figures, because that's not applauded in many Christian circles. And hopefully we're going to help change that. Like, why are we not applauding this stuff? Why are we not making this not only okay, but like great for pastors to be in the marketplace running businesses? So anyway, I was just encouraged to find so many pastors already doing it, but there's so many more that we think could find freedom and margin in their life and just relief for their family if they let us help them.
Yeah, that's really good. And the part that I love about that is that so many of them, we're not just talking about people that have a few ideas or that are dabbling in they're like full-fledged. They've rolled up their sleeves. They're doing great and awesome work. And some of them have been doing it a long, long time. But like you said, just kind of under the radar, doing their own thing. But it's nice to have a group. I believe the way that the feedback that they've given us is that it's good to have a place that they can celebrate it instead of just sort of being low key about it.
Yep. All right. What do you got? Give me one of your takeaways.
Well, one of them is that you can go out. We've sort of learned this on our own as well as seen it in others, but it's definitely toward the top when it comes to takeaways. And that is that you can go farther, faster by investing in yourself.
Yep.
You know, you can do it. You can do something on your own and maybe see the needle move, get the ball down the field some. But if you really want to get there quicker and probably farther in the long run, man, invest in yourself. Just this dovetails into my second. So I'll
go ahead.
Well, you want me to go ahead and do it?
Yeah, go ahead. Just wrap them up together.
Yeah, they're not quite the same because there's different ways to invest in yourself. But the second thing I would say is find a mentor or reliable coach. And I don't mean somebody, Jon, that just calls themselves a coach or calls themselves a mentor. You find somebody, here's a different way of saying that. Find somebody that's being successful, doing what you want to do, and then just soak up everything you can from them. You may do it from a distance. I don't recommend that necessarily. But don't be, I think for a little while, I was sort of all over the place, Jon, because I was like a sponge and I wanted to learn as much as I could. For a little while, that was all right. But somebody advised me, hey, find somebody and just really go deep with them instead of scratching the surface with all these other people. And when I did that, I really started seeing some growth and some impact at that point. Yeah.
Same. I mean, I would share that many ways in my own journey. So I love those, man. I would agree with both of those insights. And we've seen it continuously in the people that we've served, those that are doing this, they get farther, faster, they get more results. And that really ties in with one of the other one I was going to share. It's just maybe said a little bit differently. But one thing we say often around here is that there are countless opportunities waiting for me on the other side of action. And so I would say taking action makes things happen. And so often I think when people are broke, when they're desperate, when they're scared, when they have kind of a fearful outlook of the future, it's really easy just to sit back and go, I can't take any steps forward until I see all the green lights in front of me. And our whole thing is you got to just move, take a step of action. And once you do, you're going to get more clarity for the next step. And so, Pastor, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, man, that must be nice to be able to send my kid to college and pay cash for it, or buy my wife a new car, or have a, multi-7-figure pressure washing business. That must be really nice. You can have that too. Like, you can change it. If you don't like where things are at in your life right now, you can change it, but it's not going to happen while you're sitting just in your prayer closet. Pray all you want. Yes. And amen. But then at some point you got to walk out of that prayer closet and put on some work boots or some gloves or something and sit down and get some work done. And you'll be amazed at what happens on the other side of that action. So we see the people that we see in our community having the most success consistently inside and out are those who are action takers.
And I don't know about everybody, Jon, but I would say, I wish I had a number, but it's high. A majority of people have to work through some resistance, when they first start out, till they really get some wins under their belt. We talk to them all the time. It's people that are in, the Pastors Business Alliance or in our Business Launch Academy. The conversations we have is, but, but this, but once they finally, and then they'll come back and admit this to us. Hey guys, it was that action that we took, those calls that I made, the reaching out to that person, and that they introduced me to somebody else, but it was the action that leads to those results. Not reading all the books, not listening to all the podcasts, downloading the videos. It's what you do with all that information that really counts.
Yeah. Well, Les. Well, hey, thanks for watching this episode of the EntrePastors Podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time we release a new episode. If you'd like to get connected to other pastors who are learning to think, act, and thrive as prosperous entrepreneurs, then we invite you to check us out on Facebook. Just search for the EntrePastors Connect group, answer a few of our simple questions there, and we'd love to include you in the conversations. And if you're really ready to go to the next level, then we invite you to join our EntrePastors membership community. When you become a monthly subscriber, you will receive access to courses, exclusive community, and coaching that will help you along in your own EntrePastors journey. If there's anything else we can do to serve you, please visit us at EntrePastors.com, and we will do our best to serve you there. God bless everybody. See you soon.